Ever since I started playing characters and testing out how they feel, I've certainly been enjoying Chester much more. A lot of times in a Don't Starve Together world, Chester usually just sits at base. Or maybe he's in a random corner of the map because the person carrying him logged off, leaving him behind. Or maybe he's just also at a random cave entrance just because he doesn't go down with you if you log into the caves. But actually being able to have Chester around is really useful. I feel like so many people underestimate how useful he is. Way more than just being an extra chest or a fridge at the base. So with that, we are going to cover how useful Chester can be with each of his forms. This is not going to be a whole analysis of Chester, instead we're going to quickly look at where we can find him and what we can use him for. Chester actually has a priority list on how he will spawn, and it's based on what random biomes are added to the player's world. Chester will always spawn in the Frog Pond biome first. If the Frog Pond biome doesn't exist, Chester will then try and spawn near the Cobblestone Road. This Cobblestone Road can be in any of the biomes listed here. The Frog biomes, the Pig Forest biome, or even the Swamp biome. So now that we know where he can spawn, let's see what are his stats. Chester has 450 HP and 22.5 HP regen every 3 seconds. Safe to say he can take a lot of punishment. Chester gets aggroed by everything the player does, and he gains immunities dependent on what character is holding the Eyebone. Spiders won't aggro if Weber is holding the Eyebone, and frogs and worms won't attack if Wirt is holding him. He can also scare creatures. The player can use this to manipulate creatures into doing things the player wants. Like if you have a gecko world, you can create an easy gecko pen with Chester in the middle, allowing for geckos to be auto-harvested over time. And in some places he can even auto-farm healing, like for mosquito sacks in the swamp. He can also make certain fights easier to do, like Mactusk, allowing for easy hound disposal and no damage taken. He is a really great distraction, allowing for the player to do things that they normally wouldn't be able to do without using something like the pan flute for it. Because Chester is a mob, the player can abuse him for specific things, like how you can use the Bat on him to regen HP, whereas Rickfridge you can use her songs on him and gain infinite HP and sanity. Weber can also attack him if he has nurse spiders in order to heal, and Wolfgang can punch him to get some mightiness back. But one thing I really like doing is using torches on Chester. You can smack him with the torch and he will start a small fire. You can use this small fire to either warm up or dry yourself off depending on the season. The fire doesn't last long enough to actually burn anything important. That's about all the things you can do with normal Chester, and all of these apply to Chester's upgrades. But the upgrades also have their own unique traits as well. Shadow Chester is just more storage. It's actually Shadow storage that is shared with Maxwell's magical top hat. But because of this, Shadow Chester loses interactions with outside items. You can no longer warm up or cool down items inside of Shadow Chester, and items spoil faster while inside of him. A benefit though is that if he dies, he won't drop any of the items inside of him. Snow Chester is just a portable fridge, but it's really nice to have for summer since he cools down thermals to a good temperature. He also has the ability to extend the life of perishable items that normally cannot go inside a fridge. Captured animals in particular. They last twice as long in Snow Chester than they do in your inventory. And if we're talking Chester, we should also talk about Hutch too. Hutch can do all the things Chester does, but he's got inventory upgrades. First, he needs a light source in order to access his other upgrades. So a light bulb, glowberry, crust of shine, or even Winter's Feast light bulbs will turn on his light. And if he has either a spear or one-man band inside his inventory, Hutch will change into his other forms. Spear Hutch does 30 damage to enemies that attack Hutch. Good against small enemies like baby tentacles and monkeys. You also have Song Hutch, which plays a big 40 sanity a minute aura for 3 minutes. Nice in the ruins if you're stuck during Nightmare phase and can't really do anything. And that's about all I know of Chester and his variants. If you have any extra tips, make sure to leave a comment about it. Until next time, this has been Terra, and take care.